none of it means anything if the rhythm is not good. You know, if you know 3 chords, but you have really good rhythm, you can get a gig. I like musicians, whether they play drums or bass or whatever, they play with fire, passion. I learned a lot from Marcus Miller about playing what's necessary. Always got to feel great. It should never feel academic.
Hola a todos, hi everyone. We are connecting today from Madrid and we are very happy because we are with an incredible musician, an incredible artist who has been recording and touring the world with some of the best artists on the planet, and now here in Madrid with his own band, and I think he doesn't need more introduction. Please welcome Mr. Dean Brown. Hi Dean, how are you?
I'm good, thanks for having me.
Thank you. You are in the final part of this intense tour.
Yes.
With this powerful funk, soul, jazz, rock trio called DB3.
Yeah.
Dean Brown 3. How is it going the tour so far?
Great. I mean, it's intense. No days off, but the gigs are great, and all the shows have been sold out. So
wow.
So happy to that the tour was successful in that way. You know that people were interested in this trio.
Yeah.
You know, why wouldn't they be? I mean, Dennis Chambers and Hadrien Feraud, first time they played together.
Yeah.
You know, so it's pretty cool.
Great.
You know?
And playing good music with friends helps to compensate the long waiting hours, the flight delays, the thousands and thousands of miles on the road.
Right. Yeah, it helps to. Yeah, it helps you. You can't do it unless you're everybody's friends with each other. You know, and to be really honest, I won't. In the future, I'll make it easier. But it's a process. You know, this is our first time out, so we have almost, in a way, have to prove ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, and now we have. So it should be easier to logistically make things work. And at the end of the day, it's better for the audience too, because we're more refreshed.
About the styles, Dean, many styles live in this band, where James Brown meets Jimi Hendrix and McCoy Tyner, as you said in your website. I think that the best players of all time, one common aspect is that they have a unique voice and they can express many things in many styles.
Right.
How important has been for your learning experience to learn many styles, Latin, jazz, funk, rock, for the facility on your instrument?
Yeah, I don't think that I'm an expert at any one particular thing. I just sort of enjoy when something moves me emotionally.
Yeah.
You know, for instance, Latin music from Puerto Rico and Cuba. I love this music so much, but I don't really play it professionally much. You know what I mean? Although I've made a few records, like in New York, in the Latin environment, and so that was fun. But it's more about, for me, pulling things from wherever that move me. And that's how I've sort of am perceived as being able to play so many different styles. It's not so much that I know a lot about every style, but I do know a little.
Yeah, you can express something on them.
Yeah, and I think it gives me a more open approach to expressing myself in whatever kind of music we're playing.
Even in your own compositions.
Oh, sure, of course. Absolutely.
One thing is for sure, no matter the style, you have to practice to be able to express many things with your instrument. Involves many hours, many years of practice. What's your advice about how to take the most from our practice session? Some tips about practicing with our instrument?
That's a good question. I think the best approach to practicing is to not try to do too many things. Pick something, work on it. So many people try to have 5 different things to practice, or they have 2 whatever, and they touch on them, and they don't really know them at the end of the practice session.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like just practice one thing, and if you don't have that one thing down, then practice it again the next day until you can really use it. Because otherwise, you get on stage and you never can actually use the things you practice. They're just theoretical. So that's my advice, about practicing is don't practice a bunch of different things. If you have something that you want to learn it, really learn it.
You have a great experience teaching in clinics, in private lessons, and through your website. Folks, check out the links, deanbrown.com. What the things do you think that the young students and the young players overlook the most in their learning journey?
Two things. One is the attention to ear training, and this is just as much for drummers as it is for anybody else. I know the popular thing is, the joke is that drummers are people that hang out with musicians, but that's not really true. The best drummers are musicians, and part of the reason why is because they have good ears. So that's one thing, and that's that's epidemic in academia.
Translates to everything.
Yeah, that people are not working on their ears. Then the other one is, and this is super important, is rhythm. And tell people, that there's so many things that you can work on and learn about harmony and melody and phrasing and all these different things, but none of it means anything if the rhythm is not good. Rhythm is if you know 3 chords, but you have really good rhythm, you can get a gig.
Yeah.
But if you know hundreds of chords, but your rhythm's no good, then nobody wants you.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Hail to the king, hail to the king.
About timing, another thing that is common in all the best players of all time is his sense of time, his time feel. Some advice about how to develop our internal clock, our timing alone and with our bandmates.
Yeah, that's a difficult one. Because everybody has different ways of doing it. Some people don't like the metronome, other people do. My concern is whether you use a metronome or not, that you're able to feel space. So if you have 2 bars of space, that you can feel that like a wave, not necessarily like subdivided by 16th notes or something like that, which works, but feels very clinical, So one way that you could start is, instead of with a metronome, is maybe start with a beat. Like on some sort of sequencer
groove
or machine.
Machine.
And so you play the beat for 4 bars, and then nothing for 1 bar, and then try to hit 1.
And check your time.
And check your time on the next bar, and then do it for 2 bars, and then 4 bars.
How far have you reached?
I'm 8 bars. I think I'm pretty good. You know what I mean? But after that, everybody gets, everybody, because the thing is we all have a slightly different internal clock. So we have to fight that.
Dean, that's a great answer. Feeling the space.
Yeah.
About touring and producing on the road. In this kind of tour, this intense tour or tours with more days off, is it possible to compose, produce, or practice on the road when with more days off?
Yes, it is. I haven't had an opportunity this tour. It's been much harder than it looked on paper. There's not much downtime in the hotel, and if it is, you need to sleep, not to necessarily practice.
Have you composed things for your music on the road?
Sure.
Yeah.
I have. I haven't this time, but
there is no time.
I definitely have. Absolutely.
You have been touring the world for decades. If we keep in mind the touring aspects like economics, festival organizations, the audience, traveling, how do you evaluate that touring? For worse, for better? It's a new challenge from the 80s to until now.
Touring in the modern day.
Compared with the 80s or 90s? How do you
You know,
feel?
they're different. They were difficult for different reasons. But in the 80s or 90s, obviously, we didn't have all this trouble at airports.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, airlines hate musicians for some reason. You know, so, you know, they're making you buy seats for your instrument. And
the challenge is in the airports.
yeah, the airports is the worst, but the internet speeds things up. Touring and weight limits and all these types of things make it very difficult to tour comfortably, because you want to bring the things that you feel will help you play better, you know? And sometimes that doesn't all fit in one small suitcase.
We are asking to all our guests a question about drummers. You have played with some of the best drummers of all time. Llenas, for example,
Right.
Weckl, Colaiuta, Sonny Emory, Martin Smith, Billy
Right.
Cobham, Lenny White. What do you value the most in a drummer? Apart of being musical, playing for the song, not showing off, what's your thought about it?
I mean, it's funny because you mentioned probably the three things that are really important, the most important. And so it makes the question more difficult. Yeah. But I'll say this: that I need to feel something. I need to feel something from the guy. That's one thing, and I like musicians, whether they play drums or bass or whatever, that play with fire, passion and fire. You know what I mean? That's what moves me. And flexibility. I want to feel empathy. I want to feel like the drummer understands what I'm trying to do, even if I'm not sure what I'm trying to do. You know? So but definitely passion and fire, and like I said, always got to feel great. It should never feel academic.
There is a great moment in your career with the Brecker brothers, Billy Cobham. But for me, there is an incredible moment you playing with Gresmy band, Gresmy and the Nomads, with Weckl on drums, Josh Whitty on the keyboards, and a great composition called A New Day.
Right.
And you play one of the most emotional and melodic and incredible guitar solos that I ever seen, Jim.
Wow.
I'll say this from not from the camera, from my heart. The question is, what are the keys for a good solo? To create a movie inside a movie?
Yeah, the biggest key for a solo, the biggest key for me, and this is always subjective, you know, but the biggest key for me is that the soloist has to tell a story. That's all, you know. That can mean so many different things. And that story needs to relate to the song, so that it's not just you're arbitrarily using the solo section just as a sort of a practice, to practice all the things that you know that you can play over these particular chords or something. That's not what soloing is. Soloing is telling a story. And that's something that I'm very good at because I'm not a technician, you know what I mean? And I'm not...
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
About learning from others, Dean, what concrete experience from others, non-guitar players, what things have you learned from others that made you a better musician?
Oh man,
that affected directly on your playing?
That's a great question, because I think that people that we play with, that we're most influenced by. A lot of people say, oh, you know, who were your influences? And guitar players invariably say, you know, Alan Holdsworth or Jimi Hendrix or Wes Montgomery or George Benson or Pat Metheny or some, you know, or John Scofield or somebody, you know, Stevie Ray Vaughan or Albert King, blah, 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 blah. And these are all maybe true, but it's not the same as when you're playing with someone, because when you play with someone, they're responding to what you play, and you're responding to what they play, and you learn in a very organic way that about so many things. But besides that, they're very capable of telling you what they don't like. Some of the things that they don't like are things that you really shouldn't do, you know. Now, other things are subjective, but there's, for instance, Billy Cobham taught me to breathe.
Wow, breathe?
Breathe. It was so important because I would play, and I would run out of breath, and then I would rob my muscles of oxygen. I would kind of run out of gas, and you know, my technique would die and everything. So that was a great lesson for me to learn.
That Billy Cobham experience is really great.
That's a great one. I mean, you know, I learned a lot from Marcus Miller about playing what's necessary and thinking more orchestrally when you play. In other words, what's my function here? You have to leave some space for somebody else. So, and I've learned so much about harmony from so many different like sax players and keyboard players and things, more than I ever learned at school, because they're doing it in a real situation. It's the best way to learn, really.
Absolutely. Jim, what's next? What is in your schedule after this GB3 tour?
I'm, you know, going back to teaching a bit. I teach at Musicians Institute once a week, you know, in Hollywood. Teach a couple courses of my own curriculum. I'm working on a new record that is combining elements of a bunch of live performances
with your own music.
Yes, with some studio. Not only my own music. Other guys contributed to composing a lot more than in the past. So it's going to be a, you know, I wanted that so that I could play music, not just my music. You know, I wanted the challenge of trying to bring someone else's vision to life. But having said that, I have an idea about combining the live with the studio elements. So that's what I'll be working very hard on and trying to get out hopefully by the fall.
Dean, you also do online recordings through your website.
Oh yeah, of course.
People can contact you. If you live in Hong Kong or in Valencia.
They just send me a track, and if I feel like it's something that I can contribute, you know.
Check out the links, folks. Dean, thank you so much, man. Dean Brown, folks, support the great music. Dean Brown, DB3 with Danish Chambers and
Hadrien Feraud.
Wow.
So,
Thank you, Dean.